Our reading this morning is from UU Minister Erica Hewitt, and it is called The Inherent Wholeness of Every Being. The Reverend Hewitt begins, we, who are Unitarian Universalists, not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being, despite apparent brokenness. No one reading or hearing these words is a stranger to pain or the knowledge that things break or break down. Promises, friendships, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. Life is messy. Brokenness happens. We're intimately acquainted with brokenness. Then, even as we believe that no matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole people of ourselves. We are whole at our core because of the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love in which we live. As UUs, we believe that paying attention to something is an act of love. Witnessing and naming brokenness is how we begin to heal it. Some sorrows demand to be named out loud. My sister died. My body is fragile. I'm scared I won't be able to pay my rent this month. The streets in my city are filled with violence. Healing begins when we examine what's in pain, wonder how it occurred, and allow it to teach us. In fact, sometimes the brokenness is immense, and the only grasp, the only power we have over that large and complicated pain looming over us is to bear witness, to tell its story, to seek out companions and helpers who are willing to agree that, yes, there is something breaking and messy in front of us, and we will not leave or even look away until repair has begun. If love begins with attention, repair takes the form of compassion, bearing witness, speaking out. Repair looks like connection, justice, or even revolution. It looks like after-school tutoring programs, community meals, and holding signs in front of City Hall. And it begins by placing full trust and faith that there is inherent wholeness in every broken situation. Um, Before I begin my reflection, I just want to point out that there may be something that comes up for you as I talk, and I want you all to, whether here or virtually, that you are not alone. There are so many things that can and do break us. All we have to do these days is turn on the TV or read the newspaper and see gun violence happening just about everywhere, and next to nothing being done about it. Reproductive rights are being taken away after decades of precedence. The rule of law and science are being ignored or only applied when it suits certain people. The banning and burning of books. The amount of homeless people looking for help or a friend. All these things break me. Maybe they break you too, or some of you too. Perhaps there are things I did not even mention that are breaking some of you. There are days that I feel like everything is just wrong, and it keeps getting worse. That's not what I want to dwell on today, though I want to acknowledge it because it is important to name it, as the Reverend Hewitt wrote. Sometimes we are broken by joyful things. When a new human is added to our family, when we break bread with a loved one we have not connected with in a very long time, when we or our loved ones succeed, those things can break us too. And sometimes things just have to break for things to progress. The chick has to break out of its egg to begin its life. We are born into a world that will break us and constantly tries to break us. There are times that the world breaks us to our core, breaks us in such a way that to this day, we may not even realize we're broken. Break us in such a way that it affects how we react and handle our lives years beyond when we were actually broken. Those times when you were told you were less than, told you were unlovable, unworthy, made fun of because you were not normal. When these messages are what we receive from the outside world, it breaks us, or it breaks some of us. There may be other messages you've all received over your life that have broken you. We all experience this world differently, but at some point, we all break. So, what do we do about this? What do we do with all the broken people in the world? Now, some of you may be familiar with the answer I'm about to give to these questions, particularly the ones that I ask when I'm at the pulpit. And the answer usually is, I don't know. I don't know what you all should do. I know what I should do, or I figured out what I should do, and I can tell you what my answer is. I recognize I need to become more whole. I can say that today, I am the most whole I have ever been, and I am still a complete hot mess. This is a lifelong process for me. The first step was admitting that I was broken. That admission took place 10 years ago. So it took me 40 some odd years just to acknowledge that I was broken. And I was more of a hot mess back then than I am today. The next stage was dangerous for me. I was lucky enough to have people that care for me and a very good support system. I decided to expand that system and start to go to therapy, looking for all my broken pieces. Some of those pieces were easy to find and to put back into place with care and focus. Some of the pieces were teeny tiny, hard to see. Some were even hidden behind other pieces. And with great care or greater care and focus, I fit them back into place. There are some pieces I have not found yet, and I may never find some other pieces. And that's okay. Just knowing or naming that I won't find them helps. Whenever I'm working to put these pieces back together, I have to be careful. They are sharp and rough and can hurt me or others if I don't handle them with care. Just like the art of kintsugi, it is a messy process. And for those of you in the Great Hall, I invite any of you to come up to the chancel after service. There are a couple of pieces of, I'm going to say art, but that's probably not the right word, of kintsugi up here. Recognize I'm not an artist, I'm an accountant, so be gentle when you look at them. For those of you that are joining us virtually, I apologize, but due to technical difficulties, the pictures of these pieces I was not able to upload, so I am sorry. So why do I go through this painful process to become more whole? I believe we are on this earth for such a short period of time, and the things that can break us have been part of this world for a very long time before I even arrived. It has become, they have become very good at breaking us. And the one thing that I feel is essential is taking the time to put your pieces back together and become more whole so that those that we pass things on to will not have to relearn how to heal from the things that broke us. And they can move closer to a sense of being whole and work on the harder pieces to find for them so that they can become more whole and improve. I was responsible for getting my kids ready in the morning and sending them off to school and out into the world. When I first started doing this, I would tell them to have a good day. And I knew not every day would be a good day, but I sent them off with that message anyway. I didn't like doing that, but I didn't know what else to tell them. I was too broken to tell them what I wanted to. And so a few years go by, and I was talking to a parent of one of my youngest kids' friends, and they had told me they didn't tell their kids to have a good day. Because that put too much pressure on them if they didn't have a good day. And I thought that was wise. And they said, well, what I tell them is have the day you're going to have. And so as soon as I heard that, I thought, Eureka, I've got something. And so I began to tell my kids, have the day you're going to have as I sent them off into the world. And as the months went by, I began to dislike this saying as I felt it was too passive. It didn't give them the opportunity to choose what day they were going to have. They would just let it happen. They're just having the day they're going to have. I wanted to say something else, but again, I didn't know what to say because I was still too broken to figure it out. After a few more years, I had done enough of putting pieces together. Then I was able to figure out what I wanted to tell them. And so I started to tell them, make the most of your day. That way, no matter what kind of day they had and however they handle it, it would be the most they could have done. So at this point, my two oldest children I don't see them off anymore. They're either off at school or off to work. But I continue to drop my youngest off at school. And I can't tell you when it happened, but I one day I told him, make the most of your day. And he replied back, he said, you too, Dad. And for those of you that have or had teenagers, realize how momentous this is, that I actually got a response from a teenager that wasn't a grunt before 7:15 on a weekday. But in seriousness, that you too has made it all worthwhile. I feel through this process, some of the things that broke me will not break him or his brothers. He says, you too, Dad. And I hear, I love you, Dad. Thanks. I got this. Leonard Cohen's lyrics, the cracks are everything. That's how the light gets in. We as humans have to decide, are we going to help this world break us? Or are we going to be the ones that help others pick up the pieces and either be the light or help smooth those cracks out to let more light in?